Much for being here. Apologies for the little delay. Obviously this place was supposed to have been left unlocked and it wasn't. And a couple of kids that have been helping me in these events, the only night they said, "Rick, we can't make it." And I said, "It's cool, I got it down." So obviously I don't, and I apologize. Lesson learned. Sarah, please come on. A lesson learned, but I'm happy. And I'm thrilled you guys are here. Listen, I've been looking forward to visiting with the 5th Ward probably more than any other ward in this community. I've lived in the 1st Ward my whole life. My whole life in Hudson. And, and I've obviously spent a lot of time in the 5th Ward. But with all the changes that have happened, this is exciting, and I look forward to really a good conversation with everybody. These meetings are the best thing that I could have ever done. When I decided this early spring to run for mayor, I did not know. I expected to have an opponent. I expected to have a very good little primary, and hopefully go into the regular elections with an opponent with the ability to debate and carry on. Things happen and out of my control. And there were a couple of gentlemen that were running who said they were going to run against me. They both dropped out for a variety of reasons. I am sitting here running for the mayor for the city of Hudson unopposed, which is very unusual. I don't think it's happened in Hudson. Just a quick statistic that I found out, it's interesting because it's been pointed out to me. Rice University in Texas did a study last year, and they compared mayoral races in 6 states over almost a 16. I think they started 2010 to 2016. And don't hold me to these dates, but it's roughly about the same. And they did in more than half of the communities across the country, the mayor races were unopposed. And I thought, and I read about it, and I really considered what that actually meant. And it means something, I think, that's very near and dear to the Hudson community. We know each other. A lot of us know each other. We work with each other, we play with each other, we socialize with each other, we may go to church with each other. We see each other, well, it's a tiny town, 6,500, walking down the street. I read about you in the papers and the blogs. You read about me in the same sort of way. And so you have a certain familiarity. And, and it's like, I don't know what party, I do, some of you here, but, party affiliation in a small town is not what it's important. And I hope, that I've demonstrated over the past many years that I've been here, my ability to get things done, to work well with others. I was thrilled. I am a Democrat, not born and bred, I was born Republican. But I've been a Democrat for the past many, many years. And I'm very happy to have the Democrat endorsement. But I'm just as happy to have been given the Republican endorsement, which was a huge surprise to me, and the Conservative Party endorsement. And I will say, I thank them. I told both the Republicans and the Conservative Party the exact same thing that I told the Democratic Party. You have a seat at my table. We're all in this together. Pick up the phone and call me. No promises to anybody. And I, just off to the side, I've not taken a dime from the Democrat committee. I've not taken any money from the Republicans or the Conservative Party. I did a little bit of fundraising up to get this small campaign because I'm not overdoing anything. When you're running unopposed, you could do things a little differently. So doing it differently. But it became very concerning to me. It's like, okay, and I heard this a couple of times. Oh, we have to vote for Rick because we had no choice. Or, then someone said, oh, he's the anointed one, which really made me crazy. Anointed by who? Possibly the Democrats, Republicans, Conservative Party. But, I think they assume that there may be a race in some of this. So it became, I've got to tell the people of Hudson how much I want their support and how much I want to be their mayor. And in any way I possibly can. And, besides going out and knocking on doors, which I've done some of, with one kind of a nutty knee, I'm not that good about walking up and down. I did do that 5K, was it 5K the other day? For the Ghost of Gal. Barely got through it, but I did it. But I wanted to talk to as many people and have a conversation. And so I decided to come up with to meet in all individual 5 wards. And it's been, as I said earlier, one of the greatest things I've ever done, because I hear a variety of issues out there. And, obviously we have many of the same issues, but then you get into specifics of the wards, and I find that fascinating. It's really good for me. And I will say, this is, as much as I want you to get to know me, this is almost better for me, because I'm getting to know you. I'm hearing people's stories, their thoughts, what's going on, what they think is important. I came up with, in conversation with a guy that's helping me with graphics and stuff, of the One Hudson. And as you can see, I didn't even bring a campaign in here. I think everyone may have seen it. It is, oh Lord, Rick, you're sewing together.
And the buttons.
The buttons, it's One Hudson, and it is a symbol, and there's a sign out front I'll go grab in a second. It's a symbol of 5 wards interlocking to form One Hudson. As we all know, last year the city did something quite remarkable. After decades of being the only city in the United States actually, that had a weighted vote system, the city of Hudson overwhelmingly and very surprisingly passed a referendum giving each ward an equal vote. And that was the Fair and Equal campaign. That I think all of us were, well, I was, and I think many of the politicians and people who've been around here were quite surprised that it happened, and it happened so soundly. And I think it was an indication, wow, Hudson's changing, they're getting it. And so this little symbol of 5 wards interconnected, because we have to be connected, we have to be holding hands to create One Hudson, is an homage to the Fair and Equal. But more importantly, it is something I believe in. And it's idealistic, but it's at the end of the day, I promise, that we can sit down as a community, and we may not want to break bread. We may not want to go, to do the same party with each other. But I think at the end of the day, we have some common goals, some common things that we share collectively. And those are the things I want to work with the community on and pursue those things. Obviously, there's a whole other world that we'll be dealing with. But this world of divisive politics that we're seeing all around. Hello, Miranda.
Hello.
How are you? You all know Miranda Berry. She's president of the Hudson Area Library. Miranda's got an initiative on the ballot this year that we'll speak about in a second. But this whole idea, of really getting away from divisive politics. There's 2 things I don't like. I don't like things that divide, and I don't like drama. And this was a lot of drama for me tonight, just because I want things to kind of go. Things don't go, that's not life. But you do everything you can to avoid these. We were locked out for quite some time. But my friends and I got it together. Thank you all again. I want to find the things that unite us as a community and work on those things. I am only going to be as good as a mayor as the people behind me. And that's why I'm reaching out to everybody. I have been criticized over the past many years that I've been in Hudson, and it always amuses me. Carol has a blog, The Gossips of Rivertown, and 8 years ago or so, Rick Scalera very kindly put me on the Historic Preservation Commission. And I'll always thank Rick for that, because it was something I wanted to do and something I found fascinating. And immediately the chat, oh, he hadn't been here that long, he's going to mess that up, he's friends with Eric Galloway, he knows this person, he knows that person. And I don't really ever put my neck out with writing things, because once we write things, we know what that happens. It haunts you forever. But I did on Carol's blog, I said, yes, I'm friends with a lot of people. And I'm very proud of that. And I have a diverse, community of friends. And I hope that will always continue. And, people say, I saw you having lunch with so-and-so. Yes, you did. And you're going to see me having lunch with a lot of other people, or dinner, or sitting down to a meeting. I will leave as many doors open for as much talent as we can bring into the City Hall of Hudson. Hi, Brenda. Hi. Everybody, this is Brenda, one of the event coordinators, who was not here. I'm kidding. We got in fine, Brenda. Brenda, there's more chairs in this little closet if you want to sit down. You swear?
I swear.
Did you end the meeting okay?
Yes.
Brenda also works for the Hudson Development Corporation and the HCDPA, which I won't even tell you what that means. And they just had a meeting tonight, so she's a little late. So, you know, that's where I am in this race. And I'm, you know, I will continue to the last minute to be out talking to people, to get as much support, to hear as many, you know, many conversations. We have a world of problems in Hudson, but we have a world of great in Hudson. And I choose to celebrate the great things, and together let's work on the problems together. You know, every problem that not every problem, but a lot of problems we have are because people want to be in Hudson. People want to be part of this community. People want, you know, to enjoy all the good things that we have here. And we've got so many. And that's why I'm here. That's why a lot of people are here. But on the other hand, I'm not negating the fact that there are people that aren't joining those things. And we're going to work on those. We're going to work on those collectively. I am not making any promises in this campaign. I'm not, you know, this is a second career. I spent my whole life in the world of fashion. And a quick little biography of me. I was born and raised in Oklahoma. I got immediately into the fashion world in Dallas, Texas, and New York City. High-end fashion. I worked for various designers and upper-end retail stores. Bergdorf Goodman, Neiman Marcus. I was corporate president of retail for Calvin Klein, president of Isaac McRae. I worked for Chanel. So I have an incredible business background. That was a world ago. That seems like decades. Well, it was. It seems like 100 years ago. It doesn't interest me anymore. But the talents and the skills I learned over those years, they do interest me, and those are what I want to bring to the City Hall. I don't recall in the past there have been that we've had a business mind. You know, we've had some great minds as mayors, but someone that, you know, really administrative mind that I'm bringing to the table. So I hope that helps me. There's been a lot of conversation over the years. Hudson needs a city manager. The mayor can just be, you know, do weddings and shake hands and look good. I want to try this, and I want to try being more of a city manager in addition to being the mayor. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fascinating, and we're all going to do this together. We have an amazing year this year, and I'm going to be pushing tonight for everyone to please, you know, get excited about this election. And get the vote out. We have some incredible people running from the 5th Ward. We have Doc Donahue, who has been the incumbent alderman for the past few years. And hello, Doc, and welcome. I'm going to let you come up in a second and introduce yourself and give a couple of words. We have we have Eileen, who's been the city treasurer, and I'm thrilled she's now put her hat in the ring for alderman. Some very fresh talent. And someone brand new to city government, Dominic, who is just put his foot in the water, and we're thrilled. Throughout every ward, we have that excitement going, and it's an incredible. It's a diverse group of people. It's a young group of people, and I think it's going to be incredible. Once they get their feet wet and get to know what's going on, it should be a fascinating time for Houston. So, first of all, I would like to introduce Doc Donahue. Doc, if you want to stand up and say anything to the group, and.
Can't follow that yourself. I can't follow that in any way, shape, or form. My name is Robert Donahue. I'm an alderman in the 5th Ward, and I have been for a number of years, 24 years.
Wow!
And like I say, kind of an interesting story how that started. And a number of years ago, I worked at the post office as a mail carrier. And at age 55, the post office had an early out retirement initiative where if you were 55, you could retire and it would give you a half-year salary. That being the case, shortly thereafter, a longtime friend was running for mayor, and he called me and said, "You don't work for the government anymore. Would you care to run for alderman?" I said, "No, I have no interest or initiative to hold government office." But he was a great mayor, as it turned out, and also a great salesman. So here I am 24 years later. And his administration was very, very good the 14 years that he was mayor. His legacy is all around us, including this buildings, because this is his legacy, the building of this complex, and it did not come that easy. There was, even against on the Common Council, was not for it, because Barry Levine, the developer, needed some money. And the Common Council wasn't in a advantage or weren't wanting to give him that money. But Rick worked hard and long, finally got an agreement, and here we are today in this beautiful complex. And okay, what was after that? He also, Central Fire Station at 6th and Washington Street, followed. He got rid of Gold's Junkyard at 300 block of Columbia Street, and worked with the county to build a building at 325 Columbia Street, providing special services and also some mental health treatment there. So I can say he had a great 14 years. I was fortunate to be a part of it. Did I do anything as that part of that administration? Just voted yes whenever he needed a yes vote to go forward with all his projects. Saying that, I'm endorsed by the Republican and conservative parties in this election. Any help I could get would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Don. I'll talk about Rick in a second. Rick Scalera, who unfortunately can't be here, but we'll discuss Rick. Eileen. Hello, Eileen.
Hello. I think I know everyone here, and been out in the ward, live in the ward, obviously. And some of the things that strike me are how they're very similar to the concerns, as you said, in the other wards. But the other thing we have more in common with than maybe everybody knows is the effect of the truck traffic. The truck traffic that comes down Fairview, down Green Street, what that's doing is driving people out through the boulevards. You can't get off the boulevards onto Fairview in the day. I came over to go to my sister's house a couple of weeks ago. I turned off of Fairview. There was an 18-wheeler. It had just taken a tree limb by the corner, by Frankie Nero's old place. It's coming, people are coming out Harry Howard Avenue, taking the old Stottville Road to get out there. The truck traffic is also, Doc, you've seen this, you and I have talked about it when I've been out. It's putting pressure on the infrastructure on Glenwood. Glenwood was never meant to be a truck route. I had so many neighbors say that the big soda trucks are what they mention more often are coming up there. So that's a big issue. That truck traffic affects everybody. It affects us differently. Where I live on Bailey, it comes both on Fairview and down Green Street. And by the end of the summer, my ceiling fans, you can see from the exhaust from the truck. So we have more in common than not in common. And I look forward to being on the council. I'm retired now and have a lot of time and energy. So.
How long did you serve as treasurer?
For just about 7 years. I was appointed in February of '07, and then my last year in office was 2013.
That is not an enviable job. Thank you for doing that. Mm-hmm. That's a tough job. Dominic, welcome.
Thank you. Well, like Rick said, I am new to the political, I guess, but I'm here in the community for almost 50 years and worked in the city and with city youth for about 30 years. And what has made me grown a little bit is as I'm walking around meeting the people that in the ward, I've coached them and now they have kids. So that makes me feel a little older and a little bit more mature.
Old.
Yeah, so a couple initiatives that I would like to say is with my experience with the youth programs and also accessibility for city government and city programs. I would like to see more access, for our meetings. I work currently as program coordinator for the Independent Living, and I've worked almost 20 years in advocating for people, children and adults with disabilities. One initiative would, right off the bat, I will dedicate a portion of my alderman salary to start a PAL program, which is a police athletic league. I think a positive relationship with the youth and the police department is very crucial, especially in this time. And I will make sure that goes forward, and that will make sure that is a positive thing for the community. So I look forward to your support, and if I can help you at the alderman level, I definitely would do my best. Thank you.
We also have another candidate in the audience. I'm not going to let her speak. She can get Sarah Sterling, who is supervisor, running for supervisor for the 1st Ward. Hello, Sarah. Well, you're welcome to say hello, please. I promised her she wouldn't do that. Just very quickly, how I got into politics. As I said, I had a big fashion background, but I moved to Hudson, and I was a weekender in Columbia County for many, many years. I came to Hudson almost 30 years ago and really became enamored with the community. And it was a very different little town back then, but it was fascinating and interesting, and saw that, I'm not pretending I'm one of the pioneers around here, but I saw what the potential was. And not that there wasn't good things happening, but it was a changing community, and you could see that the community was in transition, which I think is that fair, Gail? Thank you. And a community in transition, and I came up here as a weekender many years ago into Columbia County, and always came into Hudson as much as I possibly could. My best friends were in Hyde Park, and I'd come up there almost every other weekend, and we'd always come to Hudson. But as a county resident, I started spending a lot of time in Hudson. And 10 years ago, I decided, this is where I want to be. This is where I'm going to put some roots down in Hudson. And this is not the last one. Who knows what the hell what happens tomorrow. But I knew this was the kind of community that I could have a sense of community in. In New York City, you don't know who lives above you, who lives below you. And God knows who your politician is, no clue. So I came here and I knew I wanted to get involved, and I had the time, and I had the, still some energy. And I got my real estate license, and that satisfied an interesting thing because, first of all, it became kind of lucrative. And secondly, it was because I love real estate and architecture, and it gave me a way to go into a house that was not illegal. I could knock on a door and get in. But then I said, well, how do I want to get involved? And this is one of my favorite stories in the world. There's a woman in town by the name of Ellen Thurston who has been a big part of the Hudson politics and event scene for many years, and has had, I think, great contributions to our community. And Ellen said, we were talking one night. I said, so how do you do? She goes, Rick, we go to meetings. And that's what they did. And I started going to every little meeting I could go to. I went to every school board meeting, most every county supervisors meeting, and everything to do with Hudson, from the Common Council to the committee meetings to other various factions. And then, as I said, I was so thrilled, when I said I'd like to get involved in something. And Scalera, very kindly and graciously, put me on the historic preservation. Rick Scalera has had a huge impact in this community. And unfortunately, because of personal situations, he's not able to be here. So I hope we have some nice thoughts and send our good thoughts towards him tonight and what he's going with his family right now. But Rick is not my best friend. He's a friend. He's an ally. He's someone that I will utilize. Our current mayor, I'll be utilizing her. Bill Hollenbeck, if something happens that I think, Bill can help, I'll be using Bill. Anybody that I think can bring something to assist me, assist the community, please, that door is always going to be open. And I'll start letting you ask questions in a minute, but I'm having fun just talking, which is bizarre. I thought I was getting a cold, but now it's like feeling good. So maybe the rest today helped. What I believe in, and then you can take this and take it. First of all, the most important thing I believe in are the people of Hudson. And, we have an amazing community. And the diversity of the community is what I've loved from the very beginning. And it's about people with different interests, people with different socioeconomic backgrounds. It just makes for an incredible, wealthy community of personalities and characters, and a tapestry that I've never seen anyplace else. And that's something I celebrate. That's something I want to, I want to be part of, and I'm thrilled to be part of it, and I'm thrilled, hopefully, to be representing these people. The most other thing that, a part of that also, and will be, I think, hopefully, something that I will be thinking of every day, is our youth. And the youth of our city is probably the most important thing. It's the future of our city. And how we nurture our youth is something that I want to get into as deep as I can. A couple of meetings ago, I announced, the first meeting out with the first ward, the first one I did of these, I announced that I'm forming, immediately after the election, the Mayor's Council on the Youth. And that will be an opportunity for me to bring together everyone involved currently with how we deal with the youth in the city of Hudson. From the school system to the youth department to a group of really talented organizations that are currently providing services for the youth, helping the youth. But bring us all together and find out what we're doing right, possibly what we may be doing wrong, where there may be something falling through a crack, and come to some conclusions. And maybe if, because we're looking at a few things. We have a youth department that needs money. We have a lake, a summer youth department, summer program in the summer that wasn't funded this year. The Common Councils came back, thankfully, and funded it. That needs attention. Not only the programming, but the facilities. They haven't been touched in years. And if you have a chance, go visit some of these. We've just recently started cleaning them up, and we have a new youth director. But this requires the attention and the eyes and the ears of our community. And I will be putting a spotlight on this whole thing as much as I can. They are our future. If we don't deal with it correctly, this world's just going to go on and getting worse and worse. And I'm saying I'm not making any promises. That's a personal promise to myself that I want to find out as much as I can what we're doing right or wrong with the youth of Hudson. Economic development is, I've been chairman of, I got into Hudson politics 2.5 years ago. A gentleman who was an alderman quit. And the first ward came to me and they said, "Will you be interested?" I said, "Sure, I'm always got that thought, it'd be very interesting." They had a meeting and they brought as many people as I guess they could gather to a couple of meetings for the first ward. They had a straw ballot and we each gave a little spiel of why we wanted to be alder people. It was between me and a couple of ladies, and very thankfully I won that. The next week the Common Council had to vote for me, and 6 months later I went through a primary, won the primary, and then the general election the following month and won the general election. So I'm elected alderman. That's how I got into that. I've been lucky to be on various committees. I've been on the Police Committee, the Economic Development Committee, which I chaired for 2 years, the Arts, Entertainment, and Tourism Committee, which I chaired for 2 years, the Finance Committee that I've been on for 3 years, and I'm sure there's a legal committee. But the Economic Development Committee, economic development is not, I look at it in a very broad way. Economic development is how we deal with housing in the community. It's how we deal with historic preservation. It's how we deal with developers who want to come in and spend some money. It's how we're dealing with the current DRI situation. But unless you have good housing, you're not going to have strong economic development. Unless you have interested people coming in to develop the community, you're not going to have strong economic development. I wish we could have a big company that's going to employ 1,000 people, and I will do my best if they come along. I'll bring them through and introduce them to all of you. But that is economic development as well, and working with businesses and job, people that are providing jobs. But I look at economic in a whole big world. Historic preservation. When I did that, I always said historic preservation is economic development for a community. And again, so all the conversations about housing, and I'm certainly going to answer any questions you have about. To me, I put that under strong economic development, because without good housing for all citizens of this community, it's not going to work. And our river, that's always been important to me. And not so much as that I have a boat, I want to get on the river boating. It is one of our, we're in the city of Hudson, on the Hudson River. And it is, it's an incredible resource. Hats off to the previous politicians, including Rick Scalera, who helped started cleaning this up in a major way. I want to provide greater access to the community for the river. I want the parks to the river to be something that every child and adult can enjoy. And giving more access. I want us to come up with some concrete ideas about the shantytown for Gare, whatever you want to call that, because that's a recreational thing. That's been sitting there undeveloped for a few years. DRI And I'm going to start with that. The DRI, we all know, is a $10 million infusion of cash from the state of New York. And I have a lot of thoughts about that. I'm sure you all do. So I'm going to shut up for a while and open up for any questions or comments or stories or observations. And please, this is as casual as we can get. And don't, please don't hesitate. Don't worry about hurting my feelings, because I'm fairly strong-skinned. If I start crying, I'll just politely leave and come right back. No, but please feel free to ask anything, and if I can't answer it, I promise you, one way or the other, I will get back to you with something. So please, anybody have any questions or comments? Vern, come on.
I'll start.
Yes, ma'am.
So, my name is Norma Shook. I live over on Glenwood Boulevard, near her sister and Bobby. Grew up on Glenwood, so I've been here all my life. My father and his mother were of Lithuanian immigrant children who came here and lived on Penoyer Street, which is now gone because of urban renewal. And my mom came here to teach in the 40s because her name was Mary Teresa Carmela Rinaldi, and no one would hire her as an Italian, except
Well, that
Hudson.
just came off your tongue.
So she met my father, and we grew up on Glenwood. Very dear to my heart, Oakdale. When you speak about the little lake there and what needs to be done, yes, I would really like to see, the city of Hudson. I know Warren Street and the riverfront, everything is so important, but that's so important as a community place. We grew up there, swam there, and that was, the memories and just the activities that surrounded you there were, I know it's a different time now, but they were priceless, and that would be wonderful to see that rehabbed, because it's a lot different. The beach needs attention, the facilities need attention, we see it all the time. There was a little volunteer cleanup last year, that was great. So I'm happy to hear that that's at least on the radar. I have written many times to mayor, the police chief, a lot of people that, and I keep saying Hudson's just not Warren Street, you got a whole group of on the north side there. What Eileen said about the traffic on Glenwood is one of my real serious concerns. I grew up there, so sometimes they were fast drivers. My father used to sit on the front porch and whistle at them. I literally now go out on the road and tell them to slow down.
I don't tell them, I yell.
I do
And
too.
it's embarrassing,
It's terrible.
in the alleys, the wards, wherever I am.
It's the same thing here, and it's on Union Street. It's the way people drive now. But I'm very worried. We have one side has sidewalks, the other people that walk on the other side, shopping carts, strollers. We've seen animals get hit. There's deer in the road. Where we live, we have deer, fox, animals, and they are in the road. We heard during the night, it was a couple weeks ago, one of the neighbors has a stone decoration, and it must have gone into the road well. Cars were just slamming. We kept waking up, slamming it. How nobody has gotten killed there, and with the kids in the summer, I've asked for more police patrol, and Chief Moore has been very good about trying to get people up there. I know they're busy, but we definitely need more. My thought, and I'm just throwing it out there, and I had written to them, my son has moved away, lives in Chicago, and they have what they call speed humps. They're not, they're not the little iron things, they're just this. But when you drive down some of those streets in Chicago, if you don't go the speed limit, you will hurt your car. So don't, and I was told that probably not good for Hudson because you couldn't snowplow.
The humps you can. The bumps you can.
The bumps you can.
Yeah,
But Chicago
well, they can
plows.
also, Hudson can learn to reuse the plow.
Exactly. Well, what my retort was, my mother's English teacher, does Chicago have snow? Yes. So they have learned to go over the humps, but it kind of got lost in the conversation. So that would, at least you'd have something there to stop, because as the trucks are all over Route 9, people use Glenwood as a throughway back down to Hudson. And I mean, I invite you to come over and sit and watch. You live there, flying down the street. So I'm just so hoping that can get some attention there.
It's true, it's a fifth ward. That is an issue that I hear in every meeting. And it's an issue that, because I live on Warren Street, but I look at Hudson as, every street's quite important to me. And I think to all of us, it has to be. But this traffic is crazy. And it's, it's just gotten where, the alleys become, the off-roads, the alleys, anywhere you can avoid a major intersection. I mean, we've had this whole conversation with redoing Stewart's at the corner of Fairview and Green. And I said, wait a minute, what are you talking? They use Fairview's as now a cut through to get, to avoid the stoplight. And yeah. I said, what can we do about it? And then there's no really difficult to cross that street because the crossing, and people do it like I back out of my garage and just close my eyes and back out, and in the alley. But I think that's a great conversation. It's a conversation that it's got to go beyond a conversation. I've been going to so many police committee meetings, and we talk about the traffic. We've talked about speed bumps. We've talked about how you can't do speed bumps. So I hear you loud and clear. I encourage you to, if you have the time to come to one of those committee meetings and speak up, because it makes such a big difference to hear from a citizen versus that alderman just keeps going on. Would you agree with that, Robert?
Yeah, how's the police committee meeting go the other night? I didn't stay. I fire committee and I left. Police committee meeting go. Were you there?
Oh yeah, for most of it, but they didn't talk about bumps. They talked about other things.
Well, it was interesting because I emailed with Chief Moore often, and he was very good, and he did at one point he put a patrol down by Oakdale, and he wrote me back that they caught 7 speeders within a very short amount of time, most of which worked at Department of Social Services where I work. So I'm not a popular person there any longer.
You notice what they've been doing with their old police cars around town?
Yes. They've got
I mean, we all know now. So I guess it's the poor tourist coming in, a visitor who's gonna.
Right. Yeah. Well, they have the speed sign too, and they had that at the entrance to the playground, which was good for a while, because right in front of my house, I'd see them, they'd leave the stop sign, they'd speed up, and they'd see that, and they would slow a little, so, it's something,
But it's a great point, it's again, that's one of our unifying things, the traffic and parking, you hear about it all the time in our community. Parking is not a huge issue in the 5th. You gonna leave me?
I'll be right back.
All right, so thank you. It's not, parking you have less of an issue I think in this ward than we do in some of the other ones, but you can talk about parking and speeding. But thank you very much. And I mentioned, the Oakdale thing. It's I spent a good amount of time there this summer just watching the program because we did allocate $70,000 just to get that program up and going again. And the year before I was out there, and I really paid a lot of attention to the facility. And that's a big conversation we have as a town. Between that and the youth club, we're going to put some money and make sure it's the best use of our money. So thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Susan Rubin.
Susan and I go way back.
I live in Hudson at Crosswinds for the last year and a half, but I'm not new to Hudson. But I am new to this particular issue, and I don't know where's the right place to raise it, but the bus that goes around Hudson is county, but it serves Hudson, not any place outside of Hudson. And first of all, I don't have a car, and I think it's the greatest thing that it's here. But I think we need more of it.
Yeah.
Whenever I ride, I'm seeing people who are supposedly going to work. How do they get home after 3 o'clock in the afternoon if they work till 5? Or if they work the second shift at the hospital?
It stops at 3, right?
It stops around 2:45 is the last out of ShopRite, 2:45. Also, it doesn't go on Sundays. Every time I get on the bus, everybody on the buses talk to each other.
Right.
And even though I didn't know anybody when I started riding the bus, now I know everybody. And I ask everybody all the time, would you ride this bus if it was later in the day, or do you need it more earlier in the day? And everybody I ask says, no, I would ride it later in the day. And then I ask, what about Sundays? Oh, absolutely, I would ride on Sundays. So I don't know how or where to go with that issue, but it affects the 5th Ward, it affects the 1st
The
Ward,
whole town.
the whole town.
Yeah. It's, I'm not gonna speak out of school, but the county finally has agreed to do more busing. And I'm sorry,
It started last week.
it has started, so,
What started?
An additional extended bus service that actually comes, I think it starts in Philmont and it comes to Hudson and it goes around and it ends up at the community college and then comes back.
That's
again.
great, but
Yeah.
now we were talking about just the one that goes through Hudson.
and the city of Hudson's part of the DRI is contemplating a small bus service around Hudson. And to the degree of how big that's going to be, that's not been decided yet, but that was definitely a part of the DRI, is actually electric buses, so it would be, good for the
When I
environment.
moved here, I had a car. And when I moved here, they gave me a welcome packet. Here's the pizza place, here's
They did?
here's who delivers, here are the local
I didn't get a
banks.
kick in the butt when I moved here, so.
No, here, Crosswinds.
Oh, here.
And I remember that there was a bus schedule in there, and when I gave up my car, I went and looked at the bus schedule and started taking it, and it's a great thing. But if I had just moved not to a complex like this, I don't know if I ever would have known about the bus schedule. I tell people in Hudson about it all the time, and they say, what? What bus?
That's another thing I hear in a lot of meetings. There's just a level of non-communication, and there's a group of people really don't know what happened. We have a new website that's coming out that will hopefully be better about giving information. But again, not everybody's on the internet too, so you have to deal with that. But I hear you, and I want to educate myself better about the current bus that I had no idea had already started. That's good news. I know it included Philmont. It includes the community college, which is incredibly important. To get some kids out there finally, because 3 years ago, Tiffany started, driving kids out to the community college with a group of people. So that's really good news when I heard about from the county. So we will find out together more about that.
Good.
Sarah, did you have something?
To go back to the speed humps for a minute. I actually have some photographs of the ones outside my daughter's place in Brooklyn, because they're about 3 feet long and they really work, and the snowplows can get over them. But I'm thinking, Rob Perry's not going to like to hear this, but I think DPW, that we can go right to DPW with that and not keep asking the police department. I mean, that's an idea.
Well, you're probably going to get the same answer, but I agree. What I get we're talking about snow and snow removal and all these things, and as a that's keeping us from having speed bumps. And we'll talk. I'm going to put a group of people on the snow removal committee, but I love it every year, no matter who the mayor is. Rob Perry's been there for, oh my goodness, how many years has Rob Perry been doing DPW? And over a decade, and the poor mayor always gets beaten up because of the snowbirds. And Rob Perry and the police are the ones that orchestrate it. And I went back and I'm looking and all this, and we make it a little complicated. So we'll talk about snowbirds in another one. But speed bumps can slow down the traffic, or speed humps. I think it's a great idea. We've been hearing about it more and more in the police committee meeting. You suggested to bring it up in DPW. I certainly will as a mayor. I will work very closely with all of our divisions, whether it's DPW, police, youth, just for everyone's information. There are no annual reviews for these people. There's no accountability, and that's one thing I want to put in place. That's just from my background, and not that I want to make people. You have to have that conversation on an annual basis with everyone you're working with. What have we done right? What have we done wrong? What can we improve? And that's, accountability is extremely important to me. I'm sorry. Yes, anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
To add two things related to Oakdale, the Conservation Advisory Committee, I had asked them when they first formed, I said I would volunteer to do anything they needed inventory-wise up in the area. But the whole hydrology of that area, if you come up Green Street and you see the timbers that are falling down in front of those houses, I was in front of the council with this, probably, it was before I left office as treasurer, and it started probably with the Mount Ray developments. It comes down at the time the Mental Health Association was tearing down a building and blacktopping, and now the timbers going down Bailey Boulevard. It goes into a ravine, which is kind of in front of where the social services building is. All of that goes into Oakdale, goes into Underhill, goes down to the river. And I just don't think we get the attention that we need up there to start at the top and see how the water flows on a level that's probably grant work, but that would be a way to have resources to do something naturally to fend off some of the growth that seems to be happening around Oakdale. But
it is part of our LWRP that we thought was in place that's not in place, and hopefully it will be part of the new LWRP as now that process is getting going. But yeah, I mean, it's well, when that mental health facility was torn down and the new one was built, we had floods.
yeah.
And we have underground rivers,
yeah,
and it affected a lot of people, and that was just, and we all have to say, we didn't know about this. You know, this town's not new,
Right.
and the infrastructure's been here for 1,000 years, not 1,000 years, but a couple of 100 years. So those are the questions that, you know, that hopefully the Common Council will be very helpful in, and it will be certainly part of the LWRP conversation. Yes, sir.
Getting back to the traffic issue that she brought up, Glenwood Boulevard isn't the only problem. Harry Howard Avenue, Harry Howard is a major problem. I travel Harry Howard a lot.
Yeah.
I live on River Ledge. Most people don't even know where River Ledge is.
Oh, I do.
I know that. But we have a major speeding problem on River Ledge, believe it or not. A short street like that, and a lot of the problem is the school buses.
Yeah, you're right.
Am I not right about that? That they tear up and down Harry Howard, and they cut across River Ledge to get to the schools, or they'll come out of the back of the school and then come out through there to Harry Howard. I walk my dogs at night, and I'm telling you, I've almost gotten hit several times on River Ledge. And
Do me a favor.
It's a double wide street.
Well, it's a big wide street. I like that big wide street.
So it's like a drag strip.
Yeah. Do me a favor. You know, and you hit it. I see school bus issues too. They have to be very accountable. And you can get a number off a bus or whatever. Get that turned.
I'll get numbers.
Please do, because that will make all the difference in the world. They get one report and they hear about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, they're giving our children every day to drive around town. So, and when that bus is empty, that doesn't give them free rein, you know, to be, you know, to whip around Hudson. So, please do me a favor. Call, you know, take down the number, let the police know. I've called the school department, I've called the schools, I've called the actual bus operator, because whoever that company is on the side, if I can find out who it is. But I agree, it's an issue throughout this entire community. And, you know, I'm going to get shot one day because I stand in my alley and yell at people.
I stand in front of the house and yell.
And on Warren Street, and I used to do that in New York City too, and I'd jump inside the house because they would throw stuff at me. But it's a really good point, and it's throughout this entire community. Everyone's talking about it.
And the drivers are, you know, talk about getting yelled at. I've backed out of my driveway, and if I'm not out there fast enough, they're rude, they yell at you, they pass you, they screamed at me, and I very nicely take their license plate off my hand and take their license, and I will call the police. I know by the time I call, it's, you know, probably...
Yeah, it's hard to do.
It's so,
unless they're
the
caught.
society and the people around us are they in that much of a hurry to be this rude? It's really, really disheartening.
You know, from just around the train station, at morning and night, from Allen to Union to Warren to State to Columbia, and you know, it's a lot of people go on the train. You see, you know, we're the #3 station now in the state of New York, and those trains are packed. And, that's part of the issue, people getting on the train on time and getting off the train and getting where they want to be. So I hear you, and we will keep talking about it, and I will keep bringing it up. And the whole traffic thing, from the trucks that were brought up earlier to how, these are all huge issues of our streets. Yes, sir.
I've had people pass me in the 20 miles an hour here.
Yeah.
Oh, walk over, whip around? Yeah, it's crazy.
I got him pass on Warren.
On Warren Street,
Yeah,
I've had it
yeah.
happen too. I followed someone to the train station who actually went past me, and I stopped and I got out of my car and I said, "You passed me on Main Street in Hudson." He said, "I was in a hurry to get here."
Oh.
That was it.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
and our little, and we just started putting these crosswalks thing, and half of them were ruined because people hit them and knock them down, then I would be more
Still
effective
doesn't
with
stop
those.
the traffic, though, you really.
Well, this is where
That's what I said too.
I will also, at the end of the day, have a conversation with all of us about being a little bit more friendly in the friendly city and watching out for all that. Problem is, the weekenders they don't care. I have a question for Vern, real quickly, then I'll come back. There's always the conversation about how we can better communicate with people about meetings. I mean, I'm sure you hear it on, we have a great radio show that's on, is it 3 times a week?
No, we're on once a week.
Oh, that's 3 times a week, come on. But what is an effective way to communicate with the citizens of Hudson, do you think? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
No, but actually, Carol's blog is really good. A lot of people actually read that. A lot of people know a lot from her blog. No, honestly, I read it every morning. I'm going to say a lot of Facebook stuff, but the thing about it, the meetings have to be a concern. And I agree with everything you guys are saying, especially about the traffic and stuff like that. But that you have to come to a meeting when you want to know that something's going to be talked about, and not only talked about, but something's going to be done. If we take, for example, with the disorderly housing thing, people showed up to that meeting. They showed up to the meeting only because it was posted on Facebook, and people were afraid. They don't really understand what it means, and I'm not sure if everybody understands what the new law, and Rick, you could probably talk about that and explain it to everyone, but people showed up for that meeting because they were concerned and they were afraid.
Very much so, and it's interesting, Vern, because when people start talking, yeah, people know about it. Not everyone knows about it, and there will still be a group of people who say, I didn't know about that meeting, but enough people showed up, and that's where neighbor talking to neighbor, whether it's Facebook, and if someone's not on the internet, knocking on someone's door, hey, there's something going on at City Hall you might be interested in. And someone said, well, Rick, you have a responsibility to put a flyer in by his door. Well, I don't have the wherewithal to put a flyer in by his door. That would be a nice thing. And I can't if it was a neighborhood meeting, but going throughout the entire town of Hudson. And maybe that's the way to do it, and figure out how the community can do it. But and Vern, thank you, because I'm always wondering how we can be a better communicator as a city to the citizens to get them involved. Vern is talking very quickly about it. Yeah, please.
I got one other thing. And with this being an election season, what's really good, and even Sarah, I see her a lot in the first ward, I'm friends with Kamal, but what's really good is that it doesn't help when you only see a politician during the season when they're trying to get elected. I think your town halls were great, going out and speaking, and I think that out of the 3 people that are running in this ward, if you are elected, you should make some time to come back and talk to the actual people that live in the residence and ask them, hey, what's going on? How can I help you? You don't have to promise them anything, but just show them the same energy that you showed when you showed up looking for the votes. And I just mean that could go a long way, because then those politicians can say, hey, we have a really big meeting coming up about the traffic that you guys talked about, and we need you there. And this communication is everything, especially when you're dealing with, especially when you come up to the higher wards. I think some wards, people think that they're self-sufficient. Like if you live in the 5th ward, they think that they don't need as much attention as like a 2nd ward or maybe a 3rd ward, but that's not true, as you can see. So I just really think that the 3 of you that are running, you should really consider coming back and I don't know, every 3 months, but just touching base the same kind of way that you guys came and knocked on the doors and touched base to get those votes.
Very good point. I started as alderman for the 1st ward. I started community meetings during the year. And not everybody found out about it, but it was certainly tried, Sarah. We had a first ward meeting, was it a year ago, in a non-election, just to really touch base with the community. I plan on doing quarterly meetings with the entire community. Probably at the library or wherever anybody else there, at the school, whoever will have it, and have the chief of police with me, the DPW director, whoever I think is going to be beneficial to this conversation. And it's a great suggestion for all the aldermen to meet with those people. It's a great suggestion to meet with your constituents as much as you can, just to touch base, because it is true, and I hear it all the time. I see you politicians just every 2 years in Hudson, and I'm sure everybody in this room will probably agree to that. I think a lot of people in this room will probably only want to see me once a year. Or not me, but someone else, maybe enough, stay away. But I think it's a great suggestion. The more we can talk, and this is the point of all these meetings, the more I can talk, the better, not a politician, I hate that word, the better I can serve you and serve the community. Thank you, that's great. And another way is to listen to the radio station. I'm just now tuning into our radio shows. I had no idea we had such a vibrant community of radio shows that give this conversation. I've never been invited to that show, but I would go if I had the opportunity.
You're running out of polls, right?
I love to talk over it. But no, congratulations, to the people that are getting the word out and that are having that conversation on a weekly basis. I really thought you had 2 or 3 days. So thanks for yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Not at all. My name's Daniel, and I'm interlocuting from across Warren Street, I think the first ward. So thanks for hosting me over here tonight. And I just thank you for that comment, because I would just like to second that. I would love a system in which aldermen were expected, I don't know if it's quarterly or biannually, to be there for coffee and donuts locally in there, and people knew when that was going to be. There's no reason why wouldn't that be a regular thing, that your alderman's going to be there. You can schedule your work life or your family life around being there. And if there's an issue in the neighborhood, you can bring it up and your neighbors can hear it. I think that's desperately needed, and I think a great idea. And I frankly like to see it just be a norm across, not up to just the whim necessarily of the alderman, but that should be something Hudson aldermen do on a regular basis. I think that would be fantastic. Also, I get emails. There's lots of folks who don't use email regularly or don't have email, but there are a lot of folks in this town who do. I know what's going on in Helsinki twice a week. I mean, but I don't know what's going on, in the city of Hudson or the buses. And so it can't be hard for the city to implement. If you want to sign up for a feed and you want information from City Hall and from your alderman, I'd love to get those emails. That can't be hard to do.
You're right, and the email is an easy thing to do. The other thing that I've been thinking about, I hate to even mention this, but today I got 10 different things on my cell phone about a missing person, about the weather, about a missing child. I don't mean 10, but I had 4 weather things and two blasts about missing. And I don't know if people around Hudson want to get the cell phone that Arts, Entertainment, and Tourism is meeting this afternoon. But something important, we're interesting. I commend DPW. They did those roads in a weekend, and I was very impressed. They did it in a week, and they were finished by the weekend when people came to town. But no one knew it was going to happen. It was a surprise to me, to everybody. So communication is the problem. They did a very effective job, and I called Rob and I said, "Great job. Next time, let's talk to the community about what we're going to be doing." I give them kudos, because by Friday afternoon we were clean, and ready for the onslaught. And Hudson on these weekends, our population doubles. So it was an amazing thing. But I want to explore that email thing with you. We're getting a brand new website, and if people signed up, it can't be that complicated.
It can't be that hard. And as long as, frankly, it's all about the subject line.
Does everybody, whatever document, I know you don't love email.
So I just wanted to, I had another, because my folks are in town visiting, and I have to go help host them for dinner. So I have to run.
Yeah, I join you
shortly in a month. By all means, come on over, 513 Warren. They're lovely people, my mom and dad. So, right, just a theme to, think about for the administration or for our city. There's questions of youth and economic development that to me fit into a theme about, continuity and change. I know this was an issue with housing. This is an issue with, short-term rentals and so on. We want our kids to grow up here. We want our kids to feel connected here, even if they have to go off to Chicago or New York, wherever, for work. But we'd like them, to have a sense of that this is a home, and that it was a home that had some, that they could come back to when they're successful, and that they can come back to and stay in touch with when they're in business or when they're in professions. That's small towns all over the country are struggling with that question, right?
Sure.
Kids move away, and all of upstate New York is struggling with that. I'd love to see that. Those are themes of how do we extend, as Hudson changes, as Hudson continues to change, how do we create some stability across generations as kids are coming through the high school, as kids maybe are engaging with the community college? How do we extend, I think you could imagine, and what brought this to my mind was economic development and youth shouldn't be siloed. They shouldn't be totally unconnected.
No, it's all connected.
Right? And they both fit into a sense of like extending, for the life cycle of Hudsonians, like this extending the length of the city, if that makes sense. So one thing, I have some colleagues who are in southern Vermont, they're in Burlington, and one of the things they're just thinking about is extending the time when kids graduate from high school, if they're not going right off to college, or if they're in the local community college, engaging them in local entrepreneurialism and local business in other ways. So at least there's a phase of their lives at that moment where they're then connected to a local business or to a local issue, right, or some city government, whatever it is. That's a theme for all of us, I think, to be striving.
And I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's part of my youth thing is mentoring with businesses and associating. That is incredibly important. For some kid who doesn't know how businesses work, maybe to get them in touch with them. And it's not a big brother, big sister kind of program, but it kind of is. And I felt bad that I've not reached out and grabbed the whole of the hands of a couple of people and said, "Come on, let's learn." And this is an eye-opening experience for me too, going through this entire process. And I hope that I become a better person. But you're absolutely right. And this business mentoring with children was my thing.
And you see Warren Street and the high school, they're very cut off, from each other. And when I do use certain businesses on Warren Street, where I see kids from the high school or just after high school, it's really special. It's very significant, and it's a great thing to see. I'd love to see more of that. And I know a little bit at that moment in life can be transformative, for a long time.
Thank you, and welcome to Hudson. You've been here how many years?
About 15. And we have two kids who are both born here, 12 and 8.
Sweet. I just recently got to know this gentleman through email, actually.
Yeah.
This is our first time to meet. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to just mention something about the communication. I'm not selling, but I work for a company that actually does sell a communication platform, licenses a communication platform to organizations to get in touch with the people they need to get in touch with. We do senior housing and low-income housing and certain kinds of healthcare facilities without the HIPAA requirements. And in our business...
Everyone has to help me with acronyms.
HIPAA is a privacy act. You can't, you have to be able to sign on to the Privacy Act before you can work in a health organization.
Yeah.
Anyway, we do voicemail, and our platform is expanding to do email and text messages, because more and more that's what people want. A text message is less invasive than a voicemail, but these services, or as included, don't cost very much. I know I'm talking to a city budget, and we're talking
with no money.
My company is based in California, and they're talking to things like the city of Alameda and some cities on the West Coast.
Well, thank you. I mean, I figured there's going to be organizations out there, but that's great to know that someone has, around that. And this is one of the best suggestions I've heard, to communicate between. Thank you all. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to the gentleman's comment about young people in the community and recent graduates from high school or from college getting involved in the community. Both the school system and the library have had a lot of wonderful experiences with AmeriCorps workers whose salaries are at least partially paid by tax dollars. And these are young people who become incredible role models for kids in the community. And it's great for them too, because they see themselves as being successful people in the community. So if we can extend that kind of thinking to the business community as well, it would really be great.
I apologize, when I said the school system and the library is doing some remarkable things for kids. The programming the past year and a half has stepped up, and they want more programming, and there's an initiative on the other side. So on your ballot on Tuesday the 7th, turn over and read, and the library is asking for a little bit more money to extend their programs.
Thank you for saying that. And I'm not advocating for it because I was introduced
Sure she
as
is.
president of the board, so because it's an educational organization, I actually can't advocate for it, but I do have some information about it, which I will leave
Yeah,
on the
please
table.
put it up here.
And if any of you have questions about what the library initiative is, people at the library, myself included, would be very happy to answer those questions. Just one point of information, the money that's going to the library does not come out of the city budget. The initiative that the library is asking for is directly between the taxpayers and the library. So it doesn't affect the tax cap in the city, and it doesn't affect the availability of the other tax funds for the initiatives that Rick was talking about. Thank you.
Thank you,
I'm gonna leave
Maria.
some flyers out
Yeah,
here.
put them out here. Anybody want
and
water
of
or
course,
anything?
we
I've got
should.
water if you want some.
We should host your quarterly meetings.
I would love that. You guys are getting, but it's so busy. You got
Kathy,
Patty.
ask a question.
Yes.
The city does give you tax money for the library.
The money that comes to us
Yes,
comes from property taxes.
right.
There was an initiative in 2009, which was the last time that the library asked for funding from the taxpayers. The city, that's a pass-through to the city. It comes directly from people's property taxes. And the city, because the library has no means of collecting that money, it's collected along with property taxes and passed to the library. And it stays the same amount forever unless...
I gotta get Sarah involved in this, okay?
Okay,
Sarah, being a supervisor before, the county does, for this library, you all get money toward the library, right? Or did that
From
change?
the county?
The
Yes.
county gives us about $2,000 a year.
Not much, Gail.
That's it, they
That's
give you?
about it. I think I have to double check the exact figure, but it's under $5,000.
How much does Greenport give you?
Greenport currently gave, this past year, Greenport gave us $7,500. You have to understand, our budget is $450,000.
That's what I
And
thought the city gave
only
more.
29% of our budget actually comes from Hudson and Greenport. 71% is raised by the library staff and the board through grants, and we do get a little bit from the state, we get a little bit from the county, but it's not significant. And most libraries in New York State, 75 to 90% of their funding comes from their communities. So even if this initiative that we have on the ballot is successful, it'll add up to 63%.
I want to
So
clear
we
up
will
one
still-
thing about the library. And the Galvin Foundation built an incredible facility. It's beautiful. It's something we're all proud of. But they ain't funding the library. And that's people assume, they're paying, no, they're not giving the library any money.
Well, I have to, full disclosure, that's not true. They
Oh,
have
some.
been giving us some money, but it's running out next year. We had a 5-year transitional grant to help us get into the building. But as of next year, that's finished. And indeed, there are a number of other grants like that, which is one of the reasons why the library is coming to the public now for help.
All right.
And I have some information cards here, which I will leave on the table.
But you have to take a Rector
Yourself.
from Mayor Penn before
Yes.
Anybody have water back there? Everybody all right? Okay, well, we're almost. Any other comments, questions, stories? You want to throw something in there? Yes, sir.
What's your take on the youth center as far as it really needs? The building's probably been the same building and almost some of the same equipment that's been there. I'm 48 that we used when I was younger. They don't have computers. The computers are almost null. I mean, I just think that if, even we're talking about mentoring into the Warren Street area, but the youth center is a great place because out of all of the organizations, from the library to Kite's Nest to anything, the youth center has been here the longest amount of time. It's like the foundation, and it's where most of the kids that are underprivileged will have to go to get to because it's in walking distance. Do we have any kind of idea on what we're going to do to make that a better place so we can use it as a resource center or anything?
I think, Vern, that's what I mean by the first thing I want to do is create a council to really delve in to see what all those problems are. I can't tell you that the youth center needs $200,000 or $2 million to get it up and running. I don't know that, nor does anyone in this community. We haven't done that study. I can't tell you if we need more programming. I want to find out these things. I'm not the expert, but I know it needs help. It needs significant help. And it is, as I said, it's one of the most, well, I would go back something, what I'm learning. In 2005, the City of Hudson went from Boys and Girls Club to the youth department. The City of Hudson, took over the department, and for a variety of reasons. I don't know all those reasons, but that's part of the conversation I want to have. Was it more successful that way? Does it make sense for the city to do it? Would we have the same amount of money? And I know that there's some people that were, listen, I've got some great friends that are going to help me through this, who've lived through all this in this community, that I know I can hit up for some answers. But, I'm not going to say this, we need to do this, this, and this. I know we need to do something. I just want to make sure it's done as thoughtfully for as many people as it possibly can. And, I know when you have to, we need to put some money somewhere. I don't want to throw bad money. I want to do it as best and as smart, as intelligent and easy. And I plan on, I know you're very involved in it. I know, Todd, who's got a great experience. I've been talking to Todd. All these people out there, I'm trying to learn. And that's part of putting together this council and people said, well, Rick, we need to take it back to the Boys and Girls Club. I don't know. But that's going to come out. We're going to have this conversation. And I certainly very want you very involved in that, please.
Well, I know, Rick, that Boys and Girls Club is not an option. Because you can't, Boys and Girls is not, it won't start up a new initiative now. The only thing to do if you want to do Boys and Girls Club, you would have to link up to a current Boys and Girls Club to get the program. Because the National Boys and Girls Club, they lost their charter when they turned it over. So they're not doing new charters in National Boys and Girls Club as a not-for-profit. So the closest would be Kingston to hook up with Kingston Boys and Girls Club.
Or Albany. Yeah, I understand all
But
this.
there's a bigger picture there because we know that we can't do a national, but when you take places like the library, take places like Kite's Nest, take places like Promise Neighborhood, you can join all those organizations in one and be able to fulfill the whole thing.
That's where I'm going with this. And that's where I want you part of this because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take everybody. From Elena, what she's doing, everybody, and there's such talent out there, and there's such a willingness and desire to do something. And I just, I think sometimes maybe we're stumbling on each other, maybe not, and I'm promised at the end of it, there may be something that some kid that's not getting what it should be getting. And those are what we want to find out about. But we've got to include the schools in this. It's very important. The school be involved in this too, because, if we're going to, the schools are going to close down and we're going to make a decision that a lot of our community is going to need, until the evening, supervision. Let's do it. Let's do it right. And let's include the whole community.
But because you also look at after-school program, because if you look at that,
absolutely,
compared to the youth center or the other ones, they're all kind of tugging at all the kids. If you put them in a situation where everybody has a group of kids, it'll be beneficial for our city. And the thing about it is that we do believe that the youth are the future, but we say that we're just not doing it because the after-school program is lacking. They have like 50 positions open. Keisness is holding on. Promise Neighborhood, we know what happened with them. They almost got kicked out of their building. So if we really believe that youth are the future, we have to.
And there is a lot of communication going on amongst all those groups. There's an out-of-school time committee that meets every month with people from all of the organizations that you've named to try to do that very thing. So if we had support from the city in helping to coordinate, you do this,
You have
you do
help from the
that.
mayor and the city. I can't tell
I
you
don't mean money, I just mean support.
how important this is.
But I think that they're not just all tugging at the kids. My guess is they're all looking at the same
Funding.
places for money.
Well, it's not really that. It's more so the kids because if you
Oh,
look
I know
at
that's private.
it's more so the kids because if you look at it, and at the library, you know, when there's functions at the youth center, they take count, and that's how they're able to produce the numbers of the kids that they're servicing. Since there's only so many kids, and if you think about it, the summer program doesn't work as well because the majority of the kids live in the second ward, and Oakdale is way up the street. They don't have transportation, so kids don't get to go up there. But if you have something that's around it, you can have a portion of it at the library, you can have a portion of it at Christness under one umbrella.
I mean, a good example is there's a program called High Five, which is for kids, for parents and children age 0 to 5. And it's a co-venture of the library, the Hudson Promise neighborhood, and the pediatrics practice at the hospital. And it provides for weekly meetings for mothers and children, birth to 5, where everybody does an activity together, then the kids get childcare and the parents get instruction from medical people, from literacy people, from people from Promise neighborhood. And they form a community of young moms. I mean, those of you who are mothers, you know what it was like when you had little kids and you got to be friends with the kids, other parents with kids your age. And that came about because Promise Neighborhood was doing a program like that and they lost funding and they weren't able to continue doing it. So the library was able to step up and say, well, we can handle part of it if you can handle part of it, and let's see if we can get the doctors involved in it too. And that's...
Well, I really will be very interested to see how many people in this community will join me on this. And I expect there'll be a lot. And you know, that's one good program. There's so many other programs out there from you know, one person dealing with 3 children. From I know people go to read kids at school. So it's finding out all this stuff. And it's something that I haven't made any commitments, but that's one biggie. My only issue is that a lot of those creative people are on the DRI. And that ends in March, so it may be a month or so late on that. So I'm going to start wrapping this up. I know people... listen, I want to thank you all for being here. I thank you for... This is just the start. And I think most of you know me. You know how to get in touch with me. Never hesitate, you know. I cannot stress how excited I am about this, how enthusiastic I am about our community, and working with the citizens, and how really, honestly, I would really appreciate your support and your vote, and getting your friends and your neighbors out there to please show up and vote. There are some interesting races going on in the community, and please, you know, it's a time that I think as a community we can make an interesting, good step. And again, let's try to unite. Thank you all so much for that. So there's plenty of buttons, there's Halloween candy, I got some water.
Before you head out, just